What's up guys, it's Kelruz, and welcome to my Phase 1 raiding guide for Classic WoW. I'm gonna be covering all the bosses available in game right now, starting with the Molten core, before ending it with Onyxia. I've seen so many guides overcomplicate things when it comes to these mechanics, so I've made an effort to narrow it all down into the most important bits for easier digestibility. In regards to consumables in the following overlay, you can bring however many or few you wish. They're by no means necessary, although I decided to put down the ones I prefer to bring myself, to give you a rough idea. Anyway, I hope you find this video helpful, and let's slay some dragons, shall we? So, the first boss you'll encounter upon entering the Molten core is Lucifron. This boss has a couple of abilities, but only one of which really matters. On a timer, Lucifron will mind control a random member in the raid, and the raid must stop AoE DPS to keep their friend alive. Or they could pad for overall damage, since one death doesn't really matter, like what I did to our rogue last reset. The adds cleave, so don't be in front of them if you're melee. Other than that, GG's and collect your loot. The next boss is Magmadar. This guy fears the raid every now and then and places lava bombs on the raid. Simply move out of the fire on the ground and you're good. Make sure you have a hunter with tranquilizing shot in the raid to dispel frenzy once the boss enrages. You can tell when he's about to enrage by a sudden increase in size, and how he starts ramming the tank up the ass. Our next encounter is Gehennas, and it's another simple one. Make sure you move out of the rain of fire he spawns on random players throughout the fight. Healers will be focused on the dispelling of Gehennas' curse, and everyone else just zergs boss. In some cases, mages might also be asked to help decurse, although it generally isn't necessary. Another boss falls, and onwards we go. Molten core's fourth boss is Garr. Garr was notoriously overtuned on private servers and was commonly perceived to be the first difficult boss in the raid. On Classic though, he's basically another loot pinata. The tanks will want to spread the adds from the boss, and the raid can either choose to zerg down the boss first or the adds. You can also opt to banish the adds if you so desire, however, so long as the healers stay awake and spam their heals on him or her, you'll be fine. Tank and spank, don't stand in fire, not much more to say. Moving on, we have Baron Geddon. The Baron is the first boss with any notable mechanics. He casts Living Bomb and Inferno on random targets throughout the fight. The Living Bomb does 3k worth of damage to anyone within range of the carrier, so to handle this mechanic simply move away from the raid and wait for it to expire. Alternatively, if you're a mage or a paladin, you can block or bubble to avoid being blasted off into the air, Team Rocket style. Inferno is the mirror to this ability, a pulsing AoE damage. To counter this, everybody else must simply move away. Shazzrah is the next boss, and likely the first of which to give you any sort of trouble. This boss requires personal responsibility within the melee camp, something that's quite rare to find with the majority focused on Zug, me smash. Shazzrah casts Arcane Explosion throughout the fight, the damage of which is increased by Shazzrah's curse, that is applied to the entire raid every 10 seconds. Mages and druids will want to dispel their biggest melee DPSers as soon as possible, and probably also the main tank. I'd suggest not worrying too much about dispelling the rest of the melee camp, since they can always run out every now and then to banish back up or to wait for a heal. And by the time that you get around to dispelling it, new curses will already have gone out. That's basically it for Shazzrah though, so let's move on. Boss number 7 is Golemagg. This boss usually calls for a third tank, but isn't really necessary. You'll want 1 tank for the adds and 2 for the boss due to his Magma Splash ability. The tanks will want to take turns tanking the boss, letting the debuff expire before picking him back up. Once again though, 3 tanks are not necessary with classic number tuning and kill times, but hey, I know there are a lot of less progress guilds out there, so I figured I'd mention it. For the rest of the raid, zerg boss and GG's. Alright, so you've made it all the way to the second to last boss, Majordomo. This boss is another one that actually requires additional tanks, so asking one of your DPS warriors to put a shield on is advised at this point. In short, stack the adds up and AoE them down for optimal efficiency. Alternatively, you can spread them out and focus them down one by one with polymorph and other forms of CC, although this is slow and quite unnecessary. Once the final add falls, the encounter is over and you're ready to move to Ragnaros. Ragnaros is by far and away the most complicated encounter in here. It's still quite simple though, let's be real. For this fight, ranged will want to stay spread in pairs of 2. The reason for this is to not knock the entire raid up into the air when Hand of Ragnaros goes out. For rogues, warriors, etc., you'll want to stack running back and forth out of melee range due to Wrath of Ragnaros, which knocks all targets within 25 yards up into the air. To counter this, simply position your melee like we're doing in this clip, and have the unexperienced players follow a marked player in the raid at all times. After 3 minutes, which granted, with good DPS the boss will be dead by then, Ragnaros will spawn an ad. Simply keep this ad away from the raid's casters since he casts mana burn on them. Most raids will not get this ad, but I figured I'd mention it. Anyway, congratulations on killing the Fire Lord. Now we step into Onyxia's lair. Onyxia is actually surprisingly difficult compared to the other bosses in Molten Core. She has tons of different mechanics, but here's the TLDR. Firstly, let me preface this by stating that this is a 3-phase fight, the likes of which begin at 100%, 60% and 40% HP. For phase 1, she will be immune to taunt, meaning that players will want to watch their threat, not to over-aggro the main tank. At the very least, you should wait for 3 Sunders before starting to DPS. Secondly, for melee players, make sure you never stand behind her, since she has a tail lash ability, knocking players up into the air, and with bad luck can send you into the eggs, spawning ads for the raids to deal with. But also stay away from the front to avoid her fire breath. The best position is to hit her from the side. At 60% she goes up into the air and aggro resets. Onyxia then spawns some whelps that will need to be taken down by your raid's patters. The rest of the raid can focus on Onyxia punching at her until she reaches 40% and phase 3 initiates. If you're a melee player, make sure you spam jump to stay in range of the boss while she's flying around. Phase 3 starts by her breathing fire over the entire room. To avoid this, hug the wall underneath and behind her like this. If you don't, you'll die. This is one of the only mechanics in the game right now that actually punish you. After this point, you will have some new mechanics to deal with for the rest of the fight. She begins casting Fears on the raid and does damage to players who stay within her Spitfire ability. Lastly, lava will now appear from the cracks in the floor, so you will want to avoid these cracks in the ground at all costs. Additionally, you might also get some more whelps to handle, due to so many players being feared and knocked back into the eggs. Keep smacking her for however long you need to, and eventually the Dragon Mother will fall too. Congratulations on your kill, and good luck on loot. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this guide. If you did, please do not hesitate to give me a follow. I make weekly videos on all things WoW and would love to have you on board as well. Anyway, I'm gonna run off and start work on the anticipated Hunter Twinkie guide. I wish you a wonderful day onwards, and peace.